particular Judicial Service Commission. And I want to align myself with their position. I believe that this is a good nomination and that you add value to our jurisprudence. But having said that, I just want to ask. Everyone knows, my Lord, that the fight against corruption is one area that is very, very dear to the executive arm of government, very, very dear to all of us here, the senators, very, very dear to all Nigerians. As a consequence of that, my Lord, people are of the view that as head of the court, it's expected, or they are requesting of you, to designate certain judges or indeed certain courts as special anti-corruption courts to hear all of these cases, to fast-track these cases, so that cases do not languish in these courts for 8, 9, 10 years. I'm talking about corruption cases. I'm also aware, my Lord, that you have an anti-corruption trial monitoring committee. We don't know what the result is, but for sure, we have not seen these cases being fast-tracked. I'd like to know your views on that. We're entitled to 2 questions. The other one, let me just touch it briefly. Of 2. Let me just touch that a little bit on that. The legislative powers to make laws is vested in us here in the National Assembly. You have your Section 6 powers, your judicial powers. My Lord, when we make laws, for the most part, we try as best we can to cure what we consider to be mischief arising from some decisions taken by the courts. But my Lord, we find that more often than not, after we've made these laws believing that we've cured these mischiefs, in your interpretation of these laws, we're back to square one. Some people are not very, very comfortable with judicial activism. They believe that we should make the law, interpret it the way we've written the law. But we end up seeing you actually making these laws for us. That some people are actually wondering whether you've taken over both our Section 4 rights and also your Section 6 rights. So I want to hear your views on how, going forward, what assurances you give to us that the laws that we passed here will be interpreted based on our own intendment. Thank you very much, my Lord.
That I want to ask. Let me introduce myself again as a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and equally as an attorney and counselor at law of the state of New York. I practice law in both jurisdictions. My Lord, I have said all of that just to say this. I know that all over the civilized world, the need for financial independence of the judiciary is critical if we are talking about the independence of the judiciary. This has to be balanced, however, with also the need for integrity, including in the area of fiscal, and I mean financial prudence on the part of the judiciary. I therefore, my Lord, would like you to address the Senate and Nigerians on the issue of financial autonomy of the judiciary. Because my chair, I need your protection. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because, my Lord, there is growing public concern of recent on the need for financial independence of the judiciary, particularly state judiciaries. And then, of course, the second leg of my question is to say, my Lord, that I am glad that in your opening remarks, you promised to clamp down on corruption and inefficiency in the judiciary. Rightly or wrongly, my lord, the corruption perception index for the judiciary is not encouraging. What steps or mission would his lordship take to improve the situation? I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I want to join other colleagues in appreciating the President for nominating you. I've also read the recommendations of the NJC. And my Lord, I want to say that we look forward to a robust judiciary under your leadership. My Lord, having said that, since you assume the position of acting Chief Judge, I have listened to some of your remarks as it relates to the reforms in the judiciary. My Lord, I want you to share your vision as it relates to justice administration, particularly in the areas of practice, direction, rules, and procedure. If we can share that with the Senate and Nigerians. My Lord, closely related to this question is something you've touched on in your explanation earlier on. I will reframe the way I have couched the question. Mr. President, sometimes about a month or some few weeks ago, alluded to appointing more Supreme Court justices. You mentioned to us here that you might not be averse to that position, but for the fact that the infrastructure that will accommodate those who are appointed is not available. My Lord, my question is, given the fact that most of the appeals that come from the Court of Appeal across the entire country, the Supreme Court is just one. In the Court of Appeal, you have a lot of divisions across the entire country. All of the appeals emanating from these divisions come directly to the Supreme Court. So you have loads of work, and you are just 21, as you say. Will you accept that more justices of the Supreme Court be appointed if you have the necessary infrastructure to accommodate them?
With the mood of the Senate, I want to say congratulations and to wish you well. But having listened to you, I think your story is very inspiring. So I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to ask any legal question. I was just wondering, listening to you as a young man, having such resilience and courage and tenacity, despite you have been told to go back and come back, and I watched it and I thought this is quite inspiring for any young Nigerian at this age and time to hear you occasionally, outside the judiciary, but just to speak to them. When we look at the state of our nation right now, our young ones, they need a lot of role models, people who have achieved. We don't have role models anymore. Now we talk about mentors, because corruption has eaten deep into the fabric of the society. And our young ones are very suspicious of everyone. But you know, somebody with your pedigree, maybe outside office, I think Nigeria needs you more. Because right now, you are in the confine of the judiciary, protected, not speaking to the public or associating with the public as it's needed. But what do we owe to this generation? What are we going to leave for them? And I think I would want you and most of members of the judiciary to look into that. And I think that, the young ones will want to listen to you. Thank you very much, and I wish you good health and strength to enjoy your office. Thank you, Mr. President.
The question posed by distinguished Senator I think Omwagege. Now, he is talking about corruption in the society in general, and in particular in the judiciary. Now, I always say that a Nigerian judiciary is part and parcel of Nigeria. Therefore, I am not surprised if I see some justices are corrupt. But that does not mean that such judges who are corrupt should not be identified and treated under our laws. Now, the most worrisome aspect of it is it happens at the lower ebb of the judiciary more. For those of us who know the area courts and the magistrate courts, this is where the main problem arises. I was a magistrate, but by the time we finished law school, we went for NYSC, we came back. We had a white man who was our chief judge in Bauchi State. We inherited him from Maiduguri. Now, there was no way you would see any scintilla of anything like corruption. But unfortunately, when it evolved down on us, and this virtually happened in almost all the states, now we started facing problems here and there. Now, let me say generally that corruption is imbued in the person who wants to be corrupted, or the person even who corrupts. Because if there is no corruptor, then there shall be no person who will be corrupted. Left to me, they should face same music. Left to me. Therefore, I am urging distinguished members of the parliament, both here and at the state level, if need be, we take a holistic look at our criminal laws. Let us amend them. Let us take care of all these kind of things. Let us provide adequately so that it will serve to inhibit the practices of this kind of thing. We know there are laws, quite all right now. But for those who are all out to see that they are saying, I'm reading from far distance, they are saying that, what is there? The law is not adequate for me. What is there? I will go and spend 2 years. I come out. By the time I got my millions, this and that. Please, it is the responsibility of the legislature to see that it sanitizes the society. Much as the judiciary will want to do it, once we don't have anywhere to rely on, or where what is given to us is limited by law, that is the end of it. There's nothing we can do. But I believe the legislature, either at the federal level or at the state level, have every power to legislate or to amend the existing legislations on these kind of provisions. So that all we want is to see that we sanitize the society. Gone are the days. I'm sure many of us who are over 60 here, like me, we knew the time when we would sleep with our eyes closed in an open air space with your room open. Nobody will come and enter your room to remove anything. I'm talking of 1960s, early 1960s. And I believe up to about 75, it was something like that. It can never happen again. It may be difficult for it to happen again. What is happening then? What has brought the change about? We have to check ourselves. We have to check ourselves. Because the problem is with us. It's with us. So that is one of the ways we'll be able to see that we sanitize the society. Now, the question put by a distinguished Senator Bamidele is talking about financial independence. And he made a lot of very good contribution. But for those of us from the judiciary, although we have started seeing signs of the autonomy, but honestly, what is keeping the judiciary aback is the lack of autonomy, especially the financial autonomy. We are not asking for anything more than what is provided for us in the budget. But distinguished, believe you me, you may go to some states, you will find that they are being refused even the ordinary, normal monthly grant. And they have staff, they have vehicles, they have residences, houses to maintain, they have offices to maintain. And where they are collecting revenue, they are not supposed to dip their hands into the revenue, because the revenue must go back to the state or the federation. Then the federation will allocate something for you as a ministry or a department. But these things are not as they used to be. It is therefore, I think, sirs, the duty and responsibility of the legislature at the national level, at the state level, to see that you touch these places so that you close all the ends where people may get corrupted. Corruption depends on the mind of somebody. I had been on a salary of 123 naira, I think about 1984, 123. And I was on level 10. I believe, yes, by then 123 naira was a lot of money. I'll put my T-shirt and we'll go with somebody to the market. I will fill a basket with 50 naira, and I will keep the remaining ones for the running days. Is that happening nowadays? So it is I think my view that it is only the legislature, is my view anyway, sirs. If I am wrong, pardon me. It is the legislature that can put things right, correct things right, call a spade a spade. Go by the prioritization of things. Judiciary, what does it really require? Do we cut anything from what they have suggested? Go and find out what is really happening. We don't have any other way. What is the allowance of justice of the Supreme Court? Plus his salary, what does it amount to? If I tell you, you will laugh. And I cannot go begging or asking somebody. I'm contented with what I have. But the legislature, I'm sure, has every right and has every power to see that things are put right. So I think I've answered that.
Thank you very much, my Lord. Is it the view of the Senate that the nominee takes a bow? My Lord, before you take a bow, let me thank you on behalf of my colleagues for coming and answering all the questions put to you. Let me also, on behalf of my colleagues, assure you that we are primed to work with the judiciary. I was not expecting you to tell us the salaries and the other packages, but I was really not very pleased to hear that it is something that is so low. Actually, I believe that you are not supposed to keep it to yourself. We should be able to discuss these kinds of things because we must ensure that the judiciary is also properly remunerated. If we are asking our judges to be above board, we should also play our part. So you have a National Assembly that will work with you. We are not going to discuss this in public, but be rest assured that we are going to look into that, as well as maybe 5-6 additional judges. You complain of accommodation. I believe that in your first line charge, you could address that. If you are not able to, let's discuss it as well. Thank you very much for coming. You can take a bow and go. Thank you.